Hello, everyone. Tiana Vanderhei here, host of the Refined Redhead podcast. Thanks for listening to the following broadcast on Public House Media.
Hi, this is Emily.
This is Lindsay.
And this is Elizabeth,
co-hosts of Beauties and Headcanons here on Public House Media. Thanks for listening to the following broadcast on Public House Media.
Once you are done with this episode, we hope you'll come check out our show, Beauties and Headcanons, where we talk nerdy to you about fandoms, fan fiction, and all pop culture for nerds that you can think of. A new show comes out every Friday.
Don't forget to subscribe on iTunes so you never miss an episode of Beauties and Headcanons. Thanks again for checking out the following broadcast on Public House Media.
Last time on the Gregg and Dave Show.
I was about to say, how do I smell? But how do I sound?
I can test one of those things is okay.
Okay.
Last time on the Gregg and Dave... Anyway, I'll be right back.
It's time for the Gregg and Dave Show.
Give it a proper name and we'll work it. Give it a stupid name and it can stay at the shipyard.
Featuring Greg Watsteiner.
I sound like a dead horse.
And David Bobkey.
I glued my head inside a toilet.
Bravely bringing you the stories of the strange.
And she had a spasmodic contraction of her hand.
As soon as we get the flux capacitor up and running again, we're going to make that happen.
Dave, so I have to stop you here.
Now sit back and enjoy the show.
That is my least favorite thing to do.
Hello and welcome to another wonderful episode of the Gregg and Dave Show on Public House Media. I am the Greg.
And playing the role of Dave Show today is Dave Show. Thank you very much.
Hi, Dave Show.
Hello, the Greg.
How you doing today?
I'm pretty good. Everything is coming up Millhouse again today. I've got a voiceover class tomorrow I'm looking forward to. And
well, that's cool.
And it's nice out today.
It is nice out today here in Wisconsin.
It is indeed.
Or as some like to pronounce it, Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Wrong pronunciation, by the way.
I don't know about those people, but yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of reasons to be very up and happy.
Yes.
All things that are not necessarily synonymous with the stories that we've got today, but
Right. Dave Show, in other exciting news, I just ate a dirt cup.
You ate a dirt cup?
Have you ever eaten a dirt cup before?
Probably not the kind of dirt cup you're talking about, but what was in your dirt cup?
Oh, it was whipped cream and Oreo cookies and gummy worms and all things good.
That explains why you walked into the studio with a wet nap.
Yes.
I had to mention that too. It was actually sticking to your shoe. I just didn't. We'll clean it up later.
Yeah. Eating a dirt cup, though, Dave Show, is much better than swallowing a goldfish. Have you ever done that? Like an actual, real, live goldfish?
I don't believe I ever have swallowed a goldfish, no. But I'm gonna throw you a curveball here, the Greg.
Yes.
Because we're talking about goldfish on Public House Media.
Yes.
Which can be found at thephmedia.com, or as I like to call it, thefmedia.com.
The Media. Yes. And you can also find us on iTunes and wherever good podcasts are found. Google Play, any one of those.
Zeke's Discount Podcast Emporium, still a great place. As soon as they actually get it online, that's going to be number one.
And Dave Show, we're not actually using microphones for this podcast today. We've resorted back to toilet paper rolls, like how they used to connect phones back in the days. And it seems to be working quite well.
Yes, you and I using toilet paper rolls. Mrs. Bale has decided not to do that. She is simply using mental telepathy.
That's wonderful.
Hey, it works for her. What can I say?
Hopefully she knows well enough not to throw her goldfish back in the lake after she gets them. I wonder if Mrs. Bale, like I have, like the Greg has ever had any pet fatalities. Can you ask her about that, Dave?
Mrs. Bale, have you ever had any pet fatalities? She is shaking her head no.
Okay.
I'm not sure if Mrs. Bale has ever owned a pet. Have you ever owned a pet, Mrs. Bale? I'm getting a blank stare and keep moving forward motion from her. So I think she's upset at me.
Okay. She is the most taskmaster of a producer that we'll ever know. Dave Show.
And you know what? She is strict but fair. That's what I found.
Yes. Well, Dave Show, you know what I learned about goldfish long time ago? Actually, before that, you know what I learned about pets a long time ago?
They don't go well with dirt cups?
That my family should probably not own them.
I see.
Because we have bad luck with pets.
I see.
In our household. Like hamsters that just managed to go down the air duct. Goldfish that managed to die when the Gregg put half the bag of goldfish food in the container.
Did the goldfish explode, or did it just kind of peter out?
You know, I don't know what happened. I think it was a slow process.
I see. That makes sense.
I think it led to its slow demise.
I'll tell you what, though. The Gregg, talking of goldfish here, it is a very dangerous thing to allow goldfish to have too much food. Especially if we're going to put them in something that is, let's say, much bigger than a fish tank.
Like a toilet bowl?
Not what I had in mind, but if it's a big enough toilet bowl.
Okay. Like a pool? Like a swimming pool?
With something like that could become a bit of an issue. May seem fun to swim with the fishes. Actually, maybe not if you know the wrong people. But nonetheless, we go to our first story from Patch.com. This is from Spokane, Washington's Patch, apparently.
Okay.
The story here is titled, Tiny Goldfish Create Monster Problem When Released in Fresh Water. Careless goldfish owners create ginormous, expensive problems when they release their pets in lakes, streams, and rivers. And for the record, they did not use the Oxford comma, which is very upsetting to me. That just puts me in a sour mood. I don't know why.
English major.
Major English major is in full effect. Story comes from Medical Lake, Washington. Hello. Swim, fishy, swim! You may think as you free your little aquarium goldfish into natural waters. What's the harm? Plenty, it turns out. Wildlife officials are wrestling with a giant-sized goldfish problem at an eastern Washington lake where the once small fish have grown to the size of footballs and are choking out native species and stirring up all kinds of problems in the ecosystem.
Get it? Stirring up.
Stirring up, yeah. I would think if you're releasing your goldfish into essentially the wild, you would have to figure that you may be releasing them into certain doom within the next 5 seconds. I mean, other fish might eat them, or... I mean, something's going to happen there.
Well, goldfish, what's their general life expectancy? About 10 seconds, right?
Something to roughly like that, yes.
We're going to get complaints from goldfish owners now. My goldfish lived for 6 or 7 years. How dare you say their life expectancy is 10 seconds? To which we say, what do we say, Dave Show?
We say swell, and we nod, because I've never owned a fish, so I don't know. I don't know goldfish life expectancy at all.
Have you ever owned any pet, Dave Show?
Oh, dogs.
Okay.
You've done the dog thing.
Much easier to manage than goldfish, by the way.
Quite a bit. I almost owned an iguana once.
Really?
But we got a dog instead in the end, so.
Wow.
Long story. We can come back to that another time. But back to the goldfish. The Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife estimates it may cost up to $150,000 to eradicate feral goldfish from West Medical Lake. And it's all because you thought you were doing a good thing for the fish, or simply no longer wanted to take care for an aquarium. So it's your fault, the Gregg.
It's my fault.
Yeah.
My fault. I thought I was doing them a good service by flushing them down the toilet bowl. But I guess, toilet bowl ends up landing in a lake, ends up, killing native species. I'm seeing the cycle here.
Yeah, well, you flush them down the toilet. That's like the worst thing I've heard. Because they go down and they breed and they mutate in the sewers. They grow mustaches and hold up other species down there.
I'm about fast funerals, Dave Show, especially when it comes to goldfish. The faster the funeral, the better, in my opinion.
Yeah, you don't like long goodbyes.
Right.
Fair enough.
Well said, by the way.
Thank you. It says here, goldfish are tiny members of the carp family. Did you know that, the Greg? Goldfish are carp.
I did not know that.
Well, there you go. We've learned something today. Goldfish are among the world's most invasive fish species. They have voracious appetites, compete with native fish for food and other resources, and cause a host of other problems, including encouraging algae blooms that disrupt the local ecosystem. They also introduce parasites and diseases that can threaten native species, of course.
Now, Dave Show, I'm no biology major, but they're making invasive species here sound like a negative thing. Like, I've learned a little bit about invasive species in my time at Carroll University, where I'm broadcasting live now from, by the way. And, like, buckthorn is an invasive species. But what I know about buckthorn, because we have a lot of that here at Carroll University, is it, like, takes over everything. So they're saying that they're kind of giving, like, that term invasive species is kind of giving the goldfish a negative connotation that I don't know if it's deserved.
Well, I guess if they're moving in and taking over, I'm sort of equating a goldfish to like an annoying aunt. They sort of they come into the house, you think for a couple hours, not a big deal, but then, oh, her car broke down, so now she's got to stay the night. But then, she likes the neighborhood here, and she went out and she met some people, and now she's going to stay for a couple weeks, and she's just cramping your style. She takes over the TV. She starts putting her weird-smelling, algae food, whatever, in the fridge, and she smells funny, and it just becomes this big disruptive thing. That's what I'm thinking of with these goldfish.
That's very deep, Dave Show.
Sorry, I started thinking of invasive species, I know, and Mrs. Bale came to mind, and I'm getting such a look right now. I better keep going. They reproduce quickly, the goldfish, not Mrs. Bale, and with a yen for travel, can quickly migrate across bodies of water. For example, a few were released into an Australian river early in the 21st century and migrated to the Voss River, or Vossi River, depending on how the thing is pronounced, where they have created a ginormous problem that continues today, according to one study that found fish traveled 3.35 miles in just 24 hours. At 3.35 miles, that's pretty good for a fish, I guess.
So in other words, don't expect the goldfish to win any track and field races anytime soon.
Well, I mean, I don't swim, and even when I was learning to swim, I didn't swim particularly quickly by any means, but I guess they're doing okay. It does say in Washington, wildlife officials are encouraging anglers to destroy goldfish if they catch them. So I think the overall lesson here, folks, don't release your goldfish into the wild unless, I guess, just don't do it. And don't release your Mrs. Bale into the wild either.
Another public service announcement from the Gregg and Dave Show. See, we want to be public servants, Dave Show. We really do.
We do like to help people, and one way we help people is by keeping Mrs. Bale in the studio at all times. Mrs. Bale has these ferocious claws for hands.
Right.
And I'm telling you, if she got to the average-sized house, she could tear that roof off within 20 minutes.
You know why we keep Mrs. Bale in the studio, Dave Show?
Several reasons.
Yes, you just listed one of them. But so she doesn't end up driving a pickup truck in Canada.
Yes, well, a pickup truck is her preferred method of transportation. Yes, once again, of course, the Greg, you are segueing into our second story.
Right.
And this story comes to us from the Canadian press. I know, we actually have a story about that. So it's so crazy. Every week, you just randomly bring up these things, and it's like, but wait, we have a story about that.
Of course we do.
Of course we do. This story comes to us from the Canadian press, and we are finding it at canoe.com.
Seems like that would be canoe.com. Seems like that would be a good place to find our goldfish story that we. But no, this is different spelling of canoe, I'm imagining.
Nope, it's Canoe.
Okay.
Indeed, that probably stands for like Canadian something or other. Canadian outdoor egomaniacs or something. I don't know.
We'll go with that.
Driver drove pickup while seated in folding lawn chair Thunder Bay police say this is the sort of person that goes fishing for those giant goldfish. He releases them into the wild and then decides, I'm going to go fish for them, I'm going to catch them, and I'm going to fry those suckers up, which I don't think is actually a great idea with carp, because I don't know that those are good eating fish.
This sounds like something out of Red Green Show. This sounds like something Red Green might do. You know,
it really does.
Rig up his pickup truck in his lawn chair.
Yeah,
you know, or chase lounge if you prefer. What's the difference between a lawn chair and a chase lounge? Is there one?
A chaise lounge is fancier and probably not found in Canada. That's my guess, but I digress. The story reads, police say a driver pulled over in Thunder Bay, Ontario, had an unusual seating arrangement, a folding lawn chair where a driver's seat should have been. Now, I do recall, you mentioned the Red Green Show, I do recall an episode where they were trying to shed weight, and they determined, you know what, if you take out all the seats you're not using. There you go. Maybe that's what this guy's doing. We'll have to read on, I guess, but that would cut down on the weight a little bit if you go with a folding lawn chair in its place. And this, for the record, is one of those folding lawn chairs. It's not just like it doesn't just fold together in a sort of two-dimensional plane. This is one of those that's got the four corners, and you kind of squeeze it together. So it's more like a square thing when it expands.
I don't know if I've ever seen those.
Yeah, it's usually the kind that's got like a cup holder. They're not usually real heavy.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Yeah. I don't know if I'm explaining it real well.
Now I smell what you're stepping in Dave's show.
I guess that's good. Well,
yes.
Anyway, they say an officer stopped a pickup truck. Now it sounds like Dukes of Hazzard.
Dukes of Hazzard in Canada.
They say an officer stopped a pickup truck on Tuesday afternoon after noticing them Duke boys were stopped on Tuesday afternoon after noticing the license plates were allegedly not authorized for that vehicle.
Imagine that.
Problem number one. Probably found them on the side of the road somewhere, slapped them on the truck, and off they went. Upon approaching the driver, police say the officer noticed the suspicious seating arrangement. The driver was sitting in a lawn chair placed in front of the steering wheel.
I've sat in many lawn chairs, and I don't drive. We established this on last show.
We're very grateful for that, yes.
Which you can find, by the way, on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and wherever else good podcasts are found. But Dave Show and I, neither of us drive. But can you imagine trying to drive a pickup truck while sitting? Don't lawn chairs generally rest pretty low?
They
like to the ground.
Yeah, I'm looking. I mean, I've got a couple pictures here of the chair and steering wheel in question, and that does not seem like the most comfortable arrangement for driving. But I guess not. Having driven really myself, I guess it's a little tough to say. Maybe it works for this person's particular build.
Right.
It could be built low to the ground, shall we say?
Right.
Yes. Thunder Bay Police actually have a tweet with some pictures of the truck and the chair. Thunder Bay Police, by the way, if you want to follow them on Twitter, is at TBPS Media.
Okay.
There you go. Thunder Bay Police Station Media, I guess. Says the lawn chair wasn't the only issue. Truck in disrepair. Young driver uninsured and suspended.
And an idiot.
And investigators say that wasn't the only thing wrong with the pickup. The story goes on to say the truck was impounded for a multitude of defects, including a broken windshield blocking the driver's view. Now, the driver's normal view or the view that he had from this particular chair? Not sure, but maybe it's kind of a doesn't really matter kind of a thing.
Right.
A defective door handle that effectively trapped the driver inside the truck. That seems like a problem.
Right.
Which begs the question, how did he get out when they arrested him? But
through the window, of course. That's why the windshield is defective.
I guess, well, yeah, again, Dukes of Hazzard. Suppose it makes sense. Also had no seatbelt buckles. Seems like the least of his problems at this point. Police say a young driver does not seem to give an age here. Just as a young driver is charged with a number of offenses related to the condition of the truck, as well as driving while suspended and operating a vehicle on a highway with no insurance. And there you go.
Yes.
What more needs to be? Canada has taken care of this particular young man. And not a moment too soon.
Yes. Speaking of not a moment too soon, let's take our first and only commercial break of the show, shall we?
Yes, let us do that.
We will be back.
After these messages,
The Gregg and Dave Show.
be right back.
Hey, the Greg.
Hey, Dave Show.
What you doing?
You know, I'm just dreaming about living in Hollywood, having coffee with the stars. You know, it's my happy place.
What a coincidence. I just happen to want to tell you about a podcast called Hollywood Happy Place.
Okay.
We so did not plan this out ahead of time.
We did not.
And you just randomly said that.
Yeah.
Right here on Public House Media, there is a fantastic podcast called Hollywood Happy Place, hosted by Jerry Strauss, who has a fantastic voice, might I add. That aside, though, even if he didn't have a fantastic voice, he is talking with some awesome people from the world of Hollywood, people that our listeners might recognize.
Like who, Dave Show?
For example, maybe Alexandra Paul from Baywatch. Perhaps Denise Austin. I mean, who doesn't remember the Denise Austin VHS fitness tapes from the 80s and 90s?
Oh, yeah.
Besides us. I mean, we didn't really work out. Well, we don't work out now, for that matter.
Right.
Maybe we should listen to that one. But even if you don't recognize those names, how about Mayim Bialik?
Oh, yes.
There you go. Shannon Elizabeth from American Pie.
There you go.
I listened recently to an interview with Lisa Jacob, who played the daughter in Independence Day and the daughter in Mrs. Doubtfire.
Excellent movies.
Great to hear what she's doing. And you might find this one interesting, the Greg. Episode 13 of Hollywood Happy Place, he speaks with singer Jewel.
Jewel. I would find that very interesting. I guess I have to listen to that Dave Show.
You sure do.
Where can I find it?
I don't know. I guess you just have to Google it. No, you go to thephmedia.com and look for Hollywood Happy Place, and you're sure to find it. Or you can go to iTunes or Google Play or places like that.
There you go.
This is your bit. I should have let you read the things. I'm so lost and confused right now.
That's okay, Dave Show.
As always, thanks to Kevin MacLeod at Incompetech.com for use of his music. In today's episode, Chillin' Hard and Hard Boiled. Loads and loads of music available for your podcasts, your YouTube videos, your daily life, if that's all you need it for. Again, visit Incompetech.com.
And now, the dramatic conclusion of The Gregg and Dave Show.
And we're back. Welcome back to this episode of The Gregg and Dave Show. We'd like to thank the fine folks at thephmedia.com, or themedia.com, as Dave Show likes to say. Say it, Dave Show.
The media.
Yes. And we'd like to encourage you to like both the Gregg and Dave Show page and Public House Media on Facebook. There you can find out about all the shows that are on Public House Media. We'd like to thank them for hosting us. And Dave Show, it's only, April? May. It's May now. And so October's only a few months away. What, like 4 or 5 months? Mm-hmm. I'm already thinking about my Halloween costume. Do you have any suggestions for me this year, Dave Show?
Oh, golly, Halloween costumes for the Greg. I think you would make an interesting skeleton if you want to go the traditional route. Oh, you know what? You would make a dandy Harry Potter.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you one costume that I wouldn't try, though, if I were you, the Greg.
Yes.
And this is definitely not setting up our third story, because I don't know what our third story is. I don't think we even have a third story, frankly. But I would definitely say don't use clear plastic wrapping around your head and try to pass that off as some sort of a disguise.
Well, you know, Dave Show, I do rap freestyle sometimes.
Indeed you do.
When I try to bust rhymes, when the sun shines and the wind chimes and Dr. Seuss sings nursery rhymes and, you know, just like that. Sorry, showing off a little bit there. But I could call myself the plastic rapper.
Ooh, there's a thought.
If I did that.
The plastic rapper. Bringing the pain.
Yeah.
Well, our third story, as it pops up on my computer, I had no idea this was here. It has a story called Burglar Wears Clear Plastic Wrapper as, quote, disguise to rob GameStop. This comes to us from local10.com, an ABC affiliate in Grubber. And the story reads, It's from St. Mary's, Georgia, this particular story. Hello. A burglar just north of the Florida border must have thought a disguise was mandatory to commit a crime because how else can you describe the lazy mask, in quotes, he chose? The man attempted to rob a GameStop in St. Mary's, Georgia on April 13th while wearing a clear plastic bottled water wrapper over his head. The disguise was entirely see-through and did absolutely nothing to hide his identity. The crook might have just worn a name tag while rummaging through the store. However, give the thief some credit, as WJXT reports he was able to get away and police have yet to apprehend him. And just looking for the latest update on this story. I am not seeing one. Let's see, updated April 16th, so I'm not sure that they have updated anything. But I'll tell you what, if somebody was to wear a dumb disguise, quote-unquote disguise, and rob a GameStop, they do have a good picture of this guy without the plastic thing on his head.
Mm-hmm.
He looks like a guy who would put plastic something on his head to rob a GameStop.
Okay.
I don't know what else to say about the guy, but he's, the word slacker comes to mind.
And we're going to leave that right there. Hey folks, thanks for listening to another fine episode of the Gregg and Dave Show, where we give you all the news you need to know. Forget about what all those other news outlets say, and just listen to us here on the Gregg and Dave Show. Listen to us next week when we will talk about something weird and maybe profound.
Yeah, I mean, looking at this picture on the left again, it looks like his head is like frozen in a jar.
Oh, that can't be good.
It's not even like, doesn't even look like it's in the right place on his body.
Is it his head or someone else's?
Oh gosh, I hope that's his head. Ugh, I don't know, but you know what? That's one of those things that always makes me wonder whenever I hear, like, the Greg and I co-own a fantasy baseball team together, so when I hear something like, Miguel Cabrera pulled a groin muscle, I always wonder, whose groin muscle did he pull? Why did they not share this information?
Yes.
And there's the segment that's getting us kicked off the air this week.
You've been listening to The Gregg and Dave Show. The Gregg and Dave Show theme is Take a Chance by Kevin MacLeod of Incompetech.com.